Hey you! I am honored that you chose my guide to help you with setting up VuhDo. So you want to learn the basics of VuhDo on how to set it up from scratch. You came to the right place. In this video I'm going to teach you how to use the VuhDo options panel to arrange the panels and groups, set values to the groups, and personalize the looks of it all. We start with opening up the VuhDo options panel. One way is to left click on the minimap icon, which looks like a blue drain eye face. To close the options panel, you simply click on the OK button in the right bottom corner. This button is also used to save all the changes that you've made. The other way is to type a chat command. You open up chat and type /forward, VuhDo space opt and hit enter. And voila, there it is again. With the scroll bar to the right of the options panel, you can change the size of it. I am going to make it bigger now so you have a better view of what I am doing. Before we make any changes to the panels, you want to make a base profile. I recommend you to do this with all new add-ons you install before you change anything in the configuration. Why? Because it is possible that when WoW launches a new expansion or big patch, your add-ons get reset to default. This means that all the changes you've made will be lost, and you definitely don't want that. If you make your own profile, no one can touch it but you. So how do you save a profile? You click on the Tools tab at the bottom, and in the left box you see Profiles options. To make a new profile, you click in the blue box and you type the name of your profile. In this case, I call it Base. When you're done typing, you click the Save button. If you want to use this base profile for all your characters, you can enable Default Profiles. It will load this profile automatically on every new char you use. When you're done, you click the OK button. You should see confirmation in your chat window that the profile was successfully saved. Does this mean you will have VuhDo enabled on all your chars? Yes, indeed it is. It will do so anyway, regardless of making a new profile or not. But why would you want VuhDo on your DPS char? Well, if you got VuhDo just to help you with healing, I can tell you it is so much more than just a tool for healing. This add-on can replace your raid and party frames completely, and I recommend that you do so because your screen will look nice and clean without double frames or having to make a separate profile in VuhDo where all panels are deleted and apply it to your DPS spec or classes. Another way is to disable VuhDo on the characters you don't want to use it on in the add-on menu and enable specific unit instead of all characters. I will show you how you can hide the Blizzard raid frames and party frames. You click on General at the bottom and select Misc in the menu to the right. In the box to the left, you have options to tell VuhDo what to show, leave alone, or hide. In order to hide party frames, you click on Party. Every time you click on it, it will scroll through the three options. You do the same with raid. Now that we have created the base profile and set the party and raid frames, we click on the OK button again to save the changes we've made. In order to see what we are doing with the panels, we move the panels to a position where we have a clear view of them. You can drag the panels by holding down the left mouse button anywhere in the panels and move them where you want them to be. The same goes for the options panel. Left click anywhere on the blue background of the panel and drag it. You can also change the size of the options panel by sliding the scroll bar at the side up or down like I said before. I already made the options panel bigger so you have a better view. If you want to remove or add a panel, you click on Move at the bottom of the options panel. You can now see the components of each panel becomes visible. In order to delete a panel with the columns in it, you click on the big red cross to the left of a panel. It will ask you if you really want to permanently remove it. You click on Yes. Now it has removed the columns that were inside the panel. To get rid of the panel itself as well, you click on the big red cross again. If you want to create a new panel, you click on the big green plus sign in the Options panel where it says Add New Panel. It immediately creates a new empty panel. To get started with our profile, we are going to delete panel 2 and 3 and will work with panel 1. Now that we have mastered the panels, we take a look at the columns. The columns will become your setup of your VuhDo raid frames. Ask yourself how you want to categorize your raid. Me personally want to have the tanks in my first group to the left, then my own group with my char always as first, then followed with the rest of the groups as being the raid groups. I am not a fan of creating filters where you have melee ranged healers in separate groups. Why? Well, my experience is that a raid leader often uses the raid groups to point out where to stand or where to move. If you have VuhDo filter all melee and healers in a group, you have no clue anymore who is in which raid group, including yourself, and can make pre-healing the right players more difficult. But that is obviously all up to your personal preference. I am just sharing my experiences I have with raid healing so far. If you want to add a new column, you click on the big plus button left to the current panel you want it in. As you can see, the column ended up below the first column instead of to the right of the last. Why did this happen? I will show you why. By default, the maximum number of columns per row are set to 8 and then grow downwards and to the right again. If you want to change this, you go to the Panels tab at the bottom and be sure you select General in the menu to the right. In the ordering section, you can change the number of columns you want for your setup. I have the columns only growing to the right, so I have it on 15. Max rows mean how many units are going to be shown per column. By default, it's 6. We are going to put it to 5 to simulate a proper raid group. We go back to the Move tab. As you can see, the column we just added is now to the right instead of one row below. This new column we just made is called Own Group, and we want to change this in Main Tanks. To change this, you click on Choose. To change the type, you click on the button that says Group and you select Special. Now you want to change the value, so you click on the box below that and you get a drop-down list with all the possible values. We select Main Tanks and click on OK. As you can see, the column had the name Main Tanks now. The next thing to do is to move this column all the way to the left to be the first column in this panel. In order to do this, you left click on the drag part and keep holding the mouse button down. When you do this, a yellow flashing line will pop up to the left of the column you want to move. This yellow line shows you where the column will end up when you release the mouse button. Now drag the column all the way to the left of the panel till the yellow flashing line is left to the original first column. Then you release the mouse button. There, done with the column for Main Tanks. If you want to have your group with your character to always be next to the Main Tanks, you can achieve this by creating a column that's called Own Group. So we are going to add a new column by clicking on the big green plus left to the panel again. As you can see, the new column we just added already has the name Own Group. Awesome, we can leave it this way. Drag it to the left until it's between Main Tanks and Group 1, then release the mouse button. Great, so now it's going to filter the Main Tanks and your own group in a separate column. That's awesome, but by default, VuhDo will show the Main Tanks and your group again in the raid frames as being regular raid groups. That's not really necessary, so I will show you how to change this. Go to the General tab at the bottom and be sure you have General selected in the menu to the right. In the filter section, you want to enable Main Tanks, Own Group. You also want to enable 5-man MT, so it will show the tank in the Main Tank column when you are in a dungeon group. If you don't want that, leave it disabled. Now we are done with filtering and go back to the Move tab. You should be able to create your own design of columns now. If you want to add a column for pets, you do it the same way as I showed you to make a column for Main Tanks. Same goes for a column with only healers, etc. So what does this look like when we are in a raid? In order to test it out, you can select the raid number you want to simulate. In this case, we select 25. And then we click on the Hold to Test button. Now you have a good idea on how it will look like as if you were in a raid. We have Main Tanks as the first column and your own group next to it. The bracketed number tells you which group number you have. In this case, it says it's 1, and then it goes on with group 2, 3, 4, etc. If you are in group 3, it would say Own Group bracketed 3, and then go on with 1, 2, skip group 3, then 4, etc. This is because we changed the filter in the General tab to not show the group and ourselves again as a separate group. When you are satisfied with the arrangement you made to the column, we can move on to change the looks of the panel and the columns. Before we do that, we are going to save all the changes we made, first by clicking on the big OK button again. To change the looks of your VuhDo, you go to tab Panels. We start with General in the menu to the right. We already discussed the ordering section, so I am going to move on to set the background of your frames. In the panel section, here you can change the looks of the background. If you don't want to have a background at all, you click on the drop-down box here and you select None. Now the edge of the background will disappear. To get rid of the rest of the background, you click inside the square where it says Background and you slide the opacity all the way to 0 and click on OK. Second is to change the size of your frames to your personal likings. So we click on Sizing in the menu to the right. Play around with the bar height and bar width till you have it how you like. If you want to get rid of the spaces between the units, you put I gap and X gap on 0. I recommend that you leave X and I space to a minimum of 2 in order to keep room for stuff like aggro indicator or select mode, because this will show outside the original unit. If you put it on 0, the lines will be overlapping the other units or not visible at all. When you are done with this, you can use the panel scale bar to resize the whole panel at once. Third is to customize the looks of the bars or units. Click on Bars in the menu to the right. In the bar texture section, you can change the looks of the background for every bar. Click on the drop-down box and choose a texture that you like. In custom settings, you can adjust the bar height of the mana bar if you want to have it bigger or smaller. In the bar color section, you can choose between 3 preset designs. Just click on all 3 of them, one at a time, and decide which one you prefer the most. In miscellaneous section, you can enable or disable damage flash. If you enable this, it will show a short red flashing square around the unit to warn you that he/she is going to take a huge amount of damage. Fourth are the headers. Click on Header in the menu to the right. Headers are the column titles. If you disable this, you will no longer be able to see in which group you are. So think hard before you decide to disable them. It's very annoying for a raid leader when you go, which group am I in? I don't know. Picture this with 20 people in your raid not knowing their group number. Yeah, that's chaos. So I recommend to leave them enabled. To change the looks of the headers, you can select the same textures as you did for your bars, like I do. Change the spacing and the size to how you like it, and you can also change the width of the headers. In the section Header Text, you can change the color of the header background and the color of the text, plus the type of font you want. To change the background and text color, you click on the square where it says Header, and in the pop-up box, you can select background and text and customize the colors. When you're done, you click on OK. To change the font, you click on the drop-down box arrow and select the font you wish. Now the headers are done as well. Fifth are targets. Click on Target in the menu to the right. By default, targets are disabled. If you enable it, it will show the target of each raid member in your raid frame. You can change where it's going to show, to the right or to the left of the unit. As you can see, it will make your raid frame really big, so for a big frame like this, it's not really handy to use, so we keep it disabled. Sixth are tooltips. Click on Tooltip in the menu to the right. Tooltips are enabled by default and it will have a set spot in your screen. If you want to freely move the position of the tooltips, you have to enable Custom in the Position section. If you also want to be able to quickly check which spells you have assigned to which key in VuhDo, you can enable Spell Info. If you don't want tooltips to be shown at all, you simply disable Show. Seventh is Text. Click on Text in the menu to the right. Text configures what and how text will be shown on health bars. The default position of the text are bottom right corner. We will change this to the middle, so click on the circle in the middle. In the section Bar Text, you can change the color. If you enable class colors, the text will have the color of the class of that unit. Again, play around with how you want it to look. You can select the font of the text by clicking on the drop-down arrow at the bottom of the section bar and select the font you like. To change the size of the names, you can slide the bars to the right for name text size. And with live text size, you change the size of their health numbers. In the hit point section, you can change how the health is shown per unit. It's on % by default. If you want to see the health in numbers, enable remaining. If you also want to see their total health, you can select show total as well. Great! Now the visual part of our rain frames is done, but the most important part for healing is still to come. 8th is hot icons. Click on hot icons in the menu to the right. Now this is the part which is the most important one to help us with healing. This is why you got VuhDo in the first place. In the Own Hot section, you can select where you want your HOTS and AoE advice and other stuff to be shown. The numbers in the box that is selected will present the place where the spell ability is going to be shown that you will select in the hot order section. I recommend you select the other one because it makes more sense to use combined with the spot where debuffs and buffs will be shown and raid icons and such. In order to not have double icons on one spot, keep the numbers at the top empty. So 1, 6 and 2 in this case are going to stay empty, and we will use the other numbers to assign the hot order. You can change the looks of the icons as well. It's set on glossy by default. If you select icon, it will show the same icon as it looks like on your action bar. So I prefer to use that one. Keep text on text. So now we have configured where and how the HOTS and our personal buffs will be. In the hot order section, we have to select the spells we want to show per unit. Keep the middle one, number 7, always for AoE advice, as it is put by default. As you can see, VuhDo has already selected the HOTS and personal buffs I am able to give to a player on the character I am on right now. So we already decided that 1, 6 and 2 are going to be empty. Click on the drop-down arrow next to the bar below slot 1 and select Empty. Do the same for 2 and 6. This means we have 3, 5 and 4 left to assign HOTS to. Decide for yourself what the best places will be for your HOTS and other players' HOTS. For me, number 3 is always other players' HOTS. 5 is always my own HOTS, and 4 is where my shields are. I apply stuff like this to all my healers, so it is the same spot no matter what healer I am on. So click on the drop-down arrow below slot 3 and select Other Players' HOTS. Now select the arrow below slot 5 and select the HOT your char has. In my case, it's Riptide. As last, select the arrow below 4, and in my case, I will select Earth Shield. I will not enable others because I don't need to see Earth Shields from someone else, but that's personal, of course. Now we are finished with one of the most important configuration of VuhDo. Keep in mind that when you go on another char, you have to configure hot icon menu again, because this part is attached to the char you are logged on with and will not be saved to the base profile. If you want your HOTS to be shown as bars, you can configure this in the hotbars menu to the right. However, that's more advanced, so I won't explain it in this guide, but feel free to play around with it. 9th, the last one in this menu is Misc. So click on that one. In the raid icon session, you can choose to enable or disable showing the raid icon. With raid icon, it means the star, diamond or nipple that a raid leader or boss can put on raid members. You can set the scale and positions to your preferences. In the sections Overheal text, you can change how these values are shown. If you don't want any overheal values to be shown ever, you can click on a drop-down arrow where it says Incoming Heal and select Empty Nothing. Yay! We are done with our huge configuration. We click on OK again to save all the changes we've made. If you did something you regret, you can always click on the cancel button below. Keep in mind that it will disregard any changes you made since you opened up the options panel. This is why it's important to click on the OK button after major changes. The last two things I want to teach you in this guide is how to get rid of the VuhDo buff watch panel. Go to the tab Buffs at the bottom and select Custom in a menu to the right and disable Enable in a general selection. This will get rid of the panel. If you want to use the buff watch, I recommend that you play around with it. It's all kind of shown itself how it works. To configure debuffs, we go to the tab Debuffs at the bottom and select Standard in the menu to the right. In the Ignore Irrelevant, you can disable Removable only. By doing this, it will show debuffs on players regardless if you can dispel them or not. You can also enable icons. This will show debuffs also as an icon in the top right corner. If you don't enable this, the debuff will only show as a bar color on the unit and it won't show any stacks or timers. Again, in the icon section, you can choose whether you want the debuffs to be shown from bosses only and only the ones you can dispel, or when you disable them, it will show any debuff from any targets, which I recommend you to do because even if you can't dispel it, you at least know that those players are going to need healing. You know soon enough which colors you can dispel and which ones you can't. By default, it won't show you how many stacks of the debuff is applied, only a timer will be shown. If you also like to know how many stacks a player has, especially when it's a tank with an armor debuff for instance, you need to click on Custom in the right menu. Then, in the Debuff Default section, you can enable stacks, and it will show the number of stacks right next to the icon. If you also want to change how big the text is for the stacks and the timer and the color of the text, you can go to Visuals in the menu to the right and click on Timer and/or Stacks in the text options. You can also change the position of the icons, and the maximum amount of debuff icons you want to have shown in your units is set to 3 by default. Right, that's it. Now you have the perfect base set up for your healing add-on. Everything you need to know when you are healing is going to be shown in a proper way, and it will definitely help you to be a better healer. I am glad that I could teach you how to set up your own raid frames, and I hope you will have loads of fun healing in your raid. Again, thanks for choosing my guide, and if you have any questions, leave them below the vid, and I'll come back to you as soon as I can. If you didn't like my guide, please let me know what you were missing or what you are looking for, and perhaps I can help you finding what you need. Don't forget to subscribe for more easy guides. See you around. Bye!